The following program has language not suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised. Welcome to Itch Your Break. Hi, I'm Jonathan Mertz, and yes, it is a brand new season of Itch Your Break, and it's been a while, and I'm sorry we didn't get these pushed out as, often as I wanted to really get this going. Had a lot of people who, since the pandemic, things have changed in their directions that I had scheduled and didn't work out, and other people were able to get in, and that's what this new season's about. It's going to feature so much stuff. It's going to be featuring local things here in the state of Kentucky where I reside, and then it's also going to be about relationships and self-help, and we're going to be doing all kinds of nifty stuff. But today's episode is going to be about a podcast that really hasn't launched yet. It's a little bit about everything, and it's from the mind of Andrew Byrd. We'll talk about it next here on Itch Your Break. Welcome back to Itch Your Break, and just think about people who you know that love to get their hands into almost everything, like a child, learning and grasping and getting everything that they can out of life. Well, that's the premises that Andrew Byrd has for his new podcast, Into Everything. And Andrew, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate it, man. Never really done anything like this. You've been a lot of help as far as resources go, knowledge. So it's really cool to actually sit down and talk to you for the first time.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because we had somebody that was kind of intertwining, and we have a place in common that we both used to work at back in the day, which is the Rotor Correctional Complex. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know you there. I think I left around 2006, maybe 2000. No, it was it was 2009. Actually, I left. I think
2009.
Yeah, I think it's between 2006 2009. I can't remember exactly. That I promoted over to a different section inside of the state government before, after moving on from there.
What'd you do while you were there?
I was electronic tech there. So,
okay.
Yeah, and did all the camera work.
With?
Yeah, I did. Phil Brierly was ended up being he was my direct supervisor towards the end. But initially when I got in there, that position was kind of within maintenance for some reason, instead of on the security side with the tech stuff and working with internal affairs to install the secret cameras and everything else. But it was weird, really weird, and of course did the radio work as well with the two-way radios at that facility. But yeah, so me and the two Mellick brothers actually, we knew each other through all the way through for a little bit. But
one of the brothers actually did the same thing as you did, pretty much.
Yes, he did.
So that's pretty cool.
So, and then he went on to be a trainer later. So
I know, dude. And he's fantastic as a trainer. Dude, he knocks it out of the water. He's a hidden gem.
He is. He absolutely is. So let's get started into this new podcast that you're creating, which is called Into Everything, which is really, really cool. What is the premises behind this, and how did it get started?
So basically, it all started between me and one of the brothers, and we've been talking about it for like a year and a half when we both worked together at Rotor. And as it started to build a little bit, I think that when you're working for a government or any business for that matter, you reflect that business, right?
Absolutely.
So moving forward with me not being employed by the Kentucky DOC anymore, I had a little bit more freedom, and he was kind of like on the other side of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of had to watch what he says and things like that. So.
And to preface, I mean, I'm still kind of involved with them and the government too. So, there's going to be moments that I may say, hey, I can't comment on that, or I can't suggest that because I'm not authorized to, but right. You can feel free to do whatever you want to say.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't really have a filter. So that's always been, that's a gift. That's a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
So, I loved my time in corrections. I mean, the people you meet, the characters, the personalities, the leadership. I mean, just the love all around, like a family atmosphere. Like I really, really, pulled from that energy my whole career. It's just when I think when you move up in certain spaces, you have to adapt and kind of modify how you think. Because I think a lot of people that come into corrections, it's like they want to change the world because that's a good thing because the person's coming in with the mindset of, I want to do good. But at the same time, whatever position you kind of operate from can only do so much. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I mean, when you get into that environment, and people that don't know, when you get into those environments, you are there with every walk of life. People who have done, just the minimum amount of felony to get into prison that's not even violent in a lot of cases. Then you got the people who are extremely violent.
I'd
And
say most cases nonviolent.
yeah, absolutely it is. And people have this misconception about prisons. Yes, there are fights. Yes, there have been killings in prison, but
Shit, dude, there was a fight last night at my 4th of July party. It was crazy, man. Like some kid and some like 40-year-old man got in a fight. Like all of a sudden I'm sitting there listening to music and I turn around and like they're both on the floor just like
oh wow,
throwing punches. But then it was one of those things where it was like, oh, I love you, man. It's
right,
all good. Yeah, you got me.
right.
So,
Oh yeah, and
I mean,
it happens. Walk of life's happen.
bro.
Yeah, it is. And what people don't understand, and what got to me inside that system was not any fault to DOC. It was actually more fault of our justice system. When you see these guys coming in, and yes, they may be a drug dealer, and they may be peddling out drugs, and they're getting like an 80-year sentence, and they got to serve 80% of that sentence just for that charge. And then you have other people who are rapists and pedophiles who get in and out in 5 to 10. That to me is just
that's a tough one to crack, man.
It is crazy, and it's nothing to do with DOC.
Yeah.
And people think it's something to do with them, but it's not. It's the justice system.
No.
DOC is after they went through the justice system.
Yeah, I mean, we try not to focus too much on that inside the institutions, but it is tough. I mean, we're aware of it, right?
Right.
Because we communicate with the inmates every day, all day, right? So
absolutely.
we hear that on a daily basis, and and that's what makes a good corrections professional pretty good at the job is like you can go in there and deflect all that kind of talk when you're talking to an inmate, right? So if they want to go that route, you got to be on your toes and kind of steer them in a different route because even though you agree with them, you're not going to sympathize with a population that is, based on violence. So like, you just try to like talk to them and, that's why it's so easy. It's the easiest job in the world. You literally go to work every day and kick it. That's all you do.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you do. You go in every day and say, what's up, man?
What's funny is you can see different people's personalities. There's a lot of turnover inside of corrections because it demands a lot of time. It really does. Because you're a 24/7 facility and people got to work through the holidays.
Job, it's a career.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like the police officers and nurses and doctors, you've got to be there for the security and for the safety of people. And it does get to people. It really does because there's people who will put their time in and think that they're doing everything right and never get that those breaks and it's miserable for them. But there's other people who really don't care but make the most of it that seem to flourish. Even if they don't promote up, they just seem to be kind of in a euphoric mode.
Well, and you know what? I totally agree with you because I'm a super observant person and I like to before I even engage with somebody, I'm probably watching them for a good 5-10 minutes, like their body language and shit like that. But here's where I disagree with you there is who are you going to check up on when someone comes to work, right? So think of your workplace, right? Think of somebody that walks in and say their hair's a little dirty. Maybe they haven't clipped their fingernails or whatever your standards are where you work, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to worry about that person, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are you going to what would be your mindset seeing somebody like that come into work for a good week straight?
What's going on in their lives that's this is happening?
What is happening though? Is it bad?
Possibly,
right? We don't know. Well, we focus a lot and we need to focus the energy on those people because yes, it is important and they do have something going on in their life. I guarantee it. No question. But what about the other ones? The ones we're talking about oh, he's cool, man. He just chills every day. He comes in, does his job. He's got it together. Boots are shine. Uniform is crisp. What about that guy or
Oh,
girl?
oh
right?
yeah, because there's a lot of psychology that people don't realize that some of the most happiest people that you see and meet are actually internally some of the most saddest people around.
Absolutely. I mean, and someone I was talking to mentioned like trauma masking. And like that is like a perfect example because it's like Chris Farley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chris Farley was like the funniest dude in the world, struggled with, addiction, and demons. So it's like, yeah, you can never discount anyone that you come across. And I think that that's where the department really should start. So like the whole pedophile thing and all that stuff, like I'm on board with it, but it's above my pay grade, even as a civilian now, like, yeah, there's a platform for that conversation. I'm just not there yet. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But, leadership, mental health, self-care is non-existent in a lot of these institutions. I can't speak for them all. Right.
Right.
But I can speak for Rotor. And, we have the Kentucky Assistance, Emergency Assistant Program, KEEP, right?
Yeah.
But it's just not realistic because if you think about it, if somebody's going through crisis, it's almost paralyzing, right? And by that, I mean, you can still get up, go drink, have fun with your friends, hang out with your family. But what about the phone call to check on your medical bills? What about the phone call they want you to call for KEEP, right? I'm going to have to pick that up. First, I have to come with the grips that I got a problem, which is hard enough already for a corrections person, right?
Correct.
We're the toughest on the block, right? You got to be.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do you have to come to grips with the fact that you're hurt or something's not right, but then you got to pick up the phone and like seek it out, listen to the operator, press 1, press 2, what's your this, what's your that? Like it's just not realistic. And then if your argument's going to be, well, what about our evaluation process for the state employees? That's even bigger bull crap. Dude, it's a copy and paste type of world, right? I bet you right now, when's evals? Coming up, right? At the end of this month?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I guarantee you I can pull 10 files of 10 evaluations on staff, and I'm almost willing to say at any institution. And I guarantee you the words are verbatim similar to all the other staff. And that is wrong. Because each staff member has that something and it should be showcased.
Right. There's a lot of things. If people would listen to big experts, a lot of companies now, especially the Fortune 500s, are going away from the valuations because they don't really serve a purpose.
They got to trust what they know.
Yeah. I mean, they don't really serve a true purpose to truly evaluate a person because, one, not every supervisor is going to have invested time, especially if it's a sergeant over 30, 40 people at a time. If it's a captain that's over 100, people per shift, whoever it is, you're not going to be able to sit down constantly and just really get to know and to truly evaluate a person.
You can. How about you get your butt out of that seat, out of the captain's office, out of the nurse's station, out of the wherever you're hanging out with at the night or whatever shift you're on, and go spend some time with somebody you haven't talked to in a month that's been working in your unit for years, right? Mm-hmm. Some of those older folk, right? Mm-hmm. How about actually spending 1 hour just talking to them and saying, what's your hobbies? What do you do? What's important to you as your supervisor? What can I do for you to make this place better for you? And that takes 1 hour. And none of us have over 100 employees. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
That ain't happening. This ain't the feds. And even they're struggling, right?
Right.
But, it doesn't take much.
So, the side that I was on in that area, I didn't have a whole lot of paperwork. But you're led to believe that there's a lot of paperwork in those higher positions. So I don't know, that's where I was going off based off a certain input on that. And it sounds like you may have more experience in that area than I do.
Well, I mean, I just believe in evaluations, you know, like that's the time to like really have your employee, staff member, whoever you serve with, that's your time to make them shine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you know, it's almost like being a parent. You know, I'm not saying you're managing children, but what do you want out of your kids?
Right.
What
You
do you
want the
want?
best for them, typically, as a
You want the
parent.
best for them, right? You want to see them succeed. You want them to get that award, that first place, you know, this person MVP, right? I want that, you know, that's what they should want for everyone, but it can't be fake. And so that's where the line is drawn to where we're not really focusing on the individual themselves, right?
Right.
Because the awards are really set out to say, hey, you did good. You know, what did he do? What did that person do that was good?
Right.
Right? Let's hear
Right.
some detail. Like share.
Well, you know, when I got the employee of the quarter at the facility there, I got a long letter that said what I did, you know, from the warden at the time, which was Warden Sweat.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't know if every person does that for that. So, you know, it was one of those
Uh,
situations.
I mean, that goes back to leadership, man. It's
Exactly.
like, you know, I mean, I'm no expert, but what I've seen is basically our supervisors failing to adapt to a new society of treating humans, right?
Right.
Like, this isn't when I came into corrections, that was at the very beginning when it swan dived, right?
Right.
So none of these supervisors, none of these captains, none of these deputy wardens at the time even thought about working any type of overtime, right? All the officers got just railroaded early on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they started implementing the sergeants and lieutenants on these overtime lists and stuff like that. But it wasn't, you know, it did not come with a little bit of words here and there, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But that's just what I'm used to. But when I'm being supervised by somebody that hasn't been in the trenches truly for an extended period of time, for days on end, hours, 16-hour days, 5 days a week, baby, getting hit. I'm not talking volunteering. I'm talking, hey, man, go ahead and put me on that list because I already know coming in tomorrow, it's going to be rough, right?
Right.
So that's all I know about corrections. So there's a lot of good leaders who have like adapted and modified how they do things, and like those people shine right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a lot of them failing our people, failing the corrections career job. And I just, man. But it's okay. We're going to hang in there. We're going to fucking stay strong. And these people are going to find the relief eventually when we get some new leadership in certain spots.
Right. Now, so how does all this tie back into your podcast?
Well, actually, my podcast has been from one topic to the other. Really, it doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So originally, it was just going to be like me and Jeremy just kind of talking about life, relationships. We're both married. We both have kids. We both have girls. We're both girl dads. And we have a similar circle. So it just made sense, right? And like I said, we talked about it for like a year and a half. So it just made sense. I mean, we always clicked. We were training coordinators together at Rotor. And I mean, since day one, we just like really just yin and yang it.
Right.
But then that fell apart. So then I had another buddy of mine, my best man actually at my wedding. He works for a pretty large music company who do a lot of creative things and stuff like that. So now I'm kind of sitting on that idea, but it requires me to like get in contact with like music artists.
Mm-hmm.
I find difficult right now,
Right.
It's just so tough. Like I got a business card this past weekend. I went to the lake and they had this awesome live band. I got the business card upstairs, and of course I don't have their name. And then you know who else also like really got me focused on podcasting?
Who's that?
Anthony Ganji.
I don't know that name.
You don't know Anthony Ganji? He's the host of Tier Talk.
No, I don't know that name.
Okay, so he runs he does, man, he's into everything. He's writing books. He has like training materials out there that you can buy if you just go on Amazon and just look him up. And then he's got his podcast, Tier Talk, where I know one of his main focuses is like inmate manipulation.
Right.
So, and then of course, I did crisis negotiation team for, I don't know how long it was, 5 years maybe. So I don't know. I just really like his vibes. He's been really helpful to me. I actually originally got in contact with him because the state CNT team for Kentucky wanted to bring him into the conference, the CNT conference.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic happened.
I gotcha. Yeah, that daggone pandemic doesn't ruin everything, I tell you what.
Dude, crushed it all, man.
So it's really cool to see that inspiration that you pulled from all these different categories and stuff. So I will tell you right now, with my podcast, It's Your Break, it's been evolved so many different times, but the whole premise was always to stay the same focus, to give somebody a place or an outlet where they're finding self-help tips, yes, funny information, comical stuff sometimes, and sometimes it's serious stuff. So that seems like it's almost the same direction that I've went in, but you may even go more specific than that, but it could always evolve. And that's what I always tell people. I said, don't get so stuck, evolve.
Well, I think really when you're thinking of business these days, and you got to think of branding, right? So you can't really close yourself off to just one specific path. And that's like when I was thinking of the podcast and thinking of stuff to do, it's really just like not even focusing on the podcast right now as much as I am just like focusing on opening the door for anything else that may come through it. Right. So that's where like the branding comes in.
Correct.
From the branding, then we can kind of focus on these ideas for the podcast.
Now,
it's just getting, for me, I'm kind of leaning towards like an open discussion kind of thing. I got a few ideas with some guys that are just unbelievable, but it would be very, very tricky to do. Right. I mean, it wouldn't. They would just all have to be on board 100%.
Oh, yeah. And that's the thing right now. It comes down to. Because initially when I started doing, this is my third iteration of a podcast. Initially, because I had a radio background I've been doing radio since I was 16, doing voiceover work since I was doing 16, and going in and out, being operations managers for a cluster of radio stations and right, and doing all this stuff. And I had initially some of our radio partners were going to be doing a podcast with me, and then that kind of fell apart. And then I've had some other friends that were jumping in with me and kind of doing it, and it fell apart because everybody's lives don't always sync up. So when I started It's Your Break, when I started from scratch with It's Your Break, it was, okay, it's going to be me. I'm going to try to bring in people through interviews and all this stuff, but it's just going to be me. And I'm going to try to invite my friends to come over when they can. Because they're very hilarious, they're very smart. Some of them are engineers, some of them are just very brilliant at seeing life for what it is.
You're just making a platform for all of them.
Correct.
I think that's cool as heck, man.
Yeah. So I've got people coming in. Like I've got a podcast coming up on that I'm doing. That's focusing, local businesses, and a lot of those are going to be, and a lot of them are going to be my, my friends that own businesses that I think, hey, not many people are hearing about this. I want to get it out there.
It's all about the small business right now.
It is.
Like we got to take care of them, man, because we actually almost hit the reset button with our economy. It's like, I don't know. Somebody was talking this weekend at this 4th of July thing where they could, they had to stock up on sriracha because the peppers were low on, being ordered or whatever.
Right.
And I just sat back like, oh my God.
Well, I don't know how many times I've been to the grocery store here lately, and major key items are just sold out. I mean, like bacon. I mean, if you go certain times of the week, bacon is just gone from the shelves.
Right.
So, and I don't know necessarily what's going on. People, are saying, we don't have the truck drivers, but then you hear the truck drivers union saying, hey, that's not the case. We're trying to get people in, but they're not wanting to, so they can raise their prices. And then you look at the packaging, and this is another thing, because again, this is all about the economic side of things. And you look at the packaging, what used to be 12-ounce bacon is now, not 12-ounce, but 16-ounce bacon is now 12-ounce bacon. So you don't get a pound anymore, but you're getting 12-ounce for more than what the pound was.
Savages.
Yeah.
God.
Capitalism is its best, buddy.
Oh my God. That's like, how I knew when it was going to be real bad?
How's that?
Dude, I was going through the drive-thru at Dairy Queen and I couldn't get a milkshake.
Oh, yeah.
Because the milk didn't arrive on time.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I was devastated.
Yeah, if you can slow that supply chain down, then you can start charging more because it seems
they had ice cream cones though. They had small serve.
Yeah, there's theories to that. The diamond industry has been working on that for years. The diamonds are not rare, but yet they want to make you think they are super rare.
Well, I ain't buying no diamonds, dude. Heck no, man. That's not me, dude.
Yeah.
Heck no. I'll get a piece of wood and tie it to a string and wear it and be okay with it.
Oh yeah. So as you progress with this podcast, what type of fulfillment do you personally want to get out of it?
I just want to hear people's stories, and I want people to not stop with their visions, right? Right. There's going to come a time where someone's going to step in your way and say, well, it's not going to work for this reason. But you as the individual, can do so much, right? With little to nothing, just your visions. And so I just want to hear from those people that are wanting to share a vision and make themselves vulnerable. I'm a huge, huge mental health advocate. That is priority for me. And it relates to every project that I even have going on right now. So people may not see that it relates, but it relates in a way,
Right.
So, yeah. So that's my big thing is they talk about statistics and corrections about these staff having PTSD and stuff like that. And that it's real. It is real, and I just feel like I want them to be able to have an extra outlet to go to when it's time to get help.
Right.
Because even if they're saying it in the workplace, sometimes people don't listen, especially in our environment, because what's the most important thing to a corrections officer?
Their time.
Huh?
Their time, in my opinion.
Their time?
Yeah.
Their egos. They don't want to hear that. It is absolutely the ego. So that alone, hilarious. That barrier alone is so hard to break through when you're trying to help someone, right? Because they're going to be really standoffish. They're going to be like, what, dude? Hold on, dude. Are you a liberal? Or whatever,
right.
Their call is, but it's not that. It's just literally I care less what you think, what your political views are, what your race is, what your background is. I just want to connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I want to be educated. I want somebody to teach me something.
Yeah, you had a totally different experience because there's a lot of people that have egos out there that's just blatantly obvious. But some things that I think you may be talking about here too is maybe more prideful than ego, because some people don't always want to help be vulnerable. That the vulnerability.
Yeah, you can use any choice of words: ego, character, morals. People just mental health has come a long way. It really has, and it will continue regardless if anybody wants to try to stop it or not. But it's just time.
Yeah.
It's just time to admit that, things are not easy as it appears to be, especially when you're working into the ground, pounding the concrete day in, night in,
absolutely,
day out, night out. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Dude, let's set you up something. Let's get you a dinner or a date night with your wife or your husband or, let's send you to the movies for a night. Let's get a live band to play you something and renew your vows or whatever you want to do. I want to hear about it and I want to get it done.
Right.
Period.
And that's very interesting to think about that. But what's funny is I'm going to back up just a second here. When you start in egos and stuff, I'm thinking of the narcissistic people that work within corrections that have the power trips. And then that's not just in corrections; that's in every industry.
I really think we're all kind of narcissistic in a way. It's tough not to be sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this concept's so cool. So when do you expect to start producing, the actual podcast? Because you've got your Facebook group going and your Facebook page. So when do you expect to really start releasing content?
So this was going to be a huge hurdle for me because I've never actually got on a microphone and spoken to anybody, like unless it's like work related. But I'm thinking this may be the push that I needed to kind of just go ahead and just put some material out, be creative. It might be all over the place at the beginning, but it's like, you got to start somewhere.
So if I was to give you any advice on doing this stuff, it would go back to my days as a production director and for radio stations and stuff. So one of the rule of thumbs, and you'll witness it in every Fortune 500 commercial out there, just about. Yeah, it's very rare that it doesn't follow this rule. Mm-hmm. One thought. So focus around one thought. And you don't have to make it. You don't have to make it super long. You don't have to make it super long. Okay. Yeah. So if you're just starting out, give it little tidbits. 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Nobody says a podcast has to be any certain time, but if you follow that one thought rule and you go back and listen to McDonald's commercials when they're talking about Big Macs, you know everything about that Big Mac. You know how it makes you feel. You know what's on it. Cheese. Yes. And, even with a Happy Meal, when they're doing Happy Meal commercials, you know exactly what you're going to get and how it's going to be, presented because it's focused on one focus at a time. And that's the thing that you got to think about even when you're doing a podcast. How are you going to focus?
And the Big Kids meals, they have those now.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do
have Big Kids meals.
And I will tell you, I will still order a Happy Meal if they have a toy that I want to put up as a collectible.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
I'm in my 40s, but you know what? I'm still a kid at heart.
As a matter of fact, we ask what toy they have and see if we can't pick and choose our toy when we're in the drive-thru.
Some won't let you do it, but some will.
Some I know. Who does that, though?
I don't know.
Who doesn't let someone do that?
I don't know. I guess if they're running out of the other toy or if it's not available,
that's weak. First come, first serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, man, my main issue with putting together content, I have tons of ideas. It's just I really need somebody to bounce words and ideas off of. So it really comes down to that's why this was so important, is to see kind of how that's going to work.
Right.
I'm just so brand new to it.
One of the things that I've done over the past year is started getting back into what I used to do when we started breaking down stuff at the radio station when we were doing promotions and things like that. So it's like, okay, here, what's the topic for our promotion? Maybe a concert for Def Leppard or something, and okay, here's the concert. So how do we want to promote it? Okay, we want to promote it this way. It basically, so you have a series of questions to develop that topic. So this is what we're doing. Here's the Def Leppard concert. We're giving away 15 tickets. How are we going to give them away? Yeah. Well, here's this. And we're going to give different scale prizes. And you start having to break yourself down. So I actually make myself Google Forms that break down, just like kind of like what I sent with you with the pre-interview form that I sent out.
Yeah.
It does the same thing for my episodes when I want to talk about a specific episode. Because if I had an idea, I'm like, okay, I want to put it down, but I want to go in detail about it. So I go down, I hit it, and it makes me fill out all these things about it. So what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Who's your target audience for this? What's going to be your tagline to hook people in? And what's going to be your description?
Oh, the hook.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. So
barbs and hooks, baby.
And so it makes you think. It's almost like storyboarding in a movie. So you storyboard, here's your plot.
I do that. I just write it on like a notepad.
And that's fine. And any way that works for you. What I say is I always start out with ideas. A lot of times I'll write them down myself. And then when I want to develop them, I'll go to my form and really go through that process. and just kind of get that. And even from the forum, it still goes through one or two more revisions before I get there. So,
For sure.
yeah.
Dude,
so,
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, not a problem.
You've been a godsend. You really have, man. 'Cause, I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way, especially starting out with a new project. Is like,
oh, yeah.
There always comes that time where it's like, do I really want to pursue this?
And you know what's fascinating
is really the avenue I want to go? Do I really want to put myself out there?
Mm-hmm. There are so many things that I did during, radio, but what I found out is I still have a lot of contacts, and I have to get to a certain level according to the company policy. It has nothing to do with my contact. Every now and then they can sneak me something through, and like with ABC and CBS, and because I still have all the media contacts in NBC when I was at the radio station. And they used to send me all kinds of like interviews, like I've done Jeffrey Donovan from Bird Notice. I've done Joshua Gomez, who played on Chuck, and did different things, and I've had them on my podcast from Tidbits, and did a double interview at the same exact time. And it's like, hey, I'm going to do this. Can I do two different ones at one? And they would let me do it. But that was while I was still at the radio station, so they didn't have a big problem. But when I went independent, they want you to make sure you have a certain social media following. Now, I do have.
I hate social media
because they want the content to be able to get out there and be searchable, and it's all about SEO.
And I think doing the podcast will help me kind of like get away from. I'm actually talking to a few people because, I'd really like to just pass that whole social media thing down to somebody.
Oh yeah.
Just because, I just don't have the time and energy to kind of like, I mean, it's so important. Like social media is important. Okay. I've come around to it because there are a lot of people having a lot of really good conversations on social media.
Right.
But sometimes it's like, oh man,
it's a bashing competition. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You can't control it. So if things go off the rails, it's like, you might as well just pull a chair up and just get some popcorn because you never know where it's going to go.
So let me tell you this. They used to have a comic convention here right outside of Louisville, Kentucky, and it was GalaxyCon. And no matter, because I had so much years in radio and it was part of the media for so long, it didn't matter. Like, I had to have a minimum of 20,000 followers on any social media platform, even to try to get credentials if I'm on my own. Yeah, if I'm on my own. Now, if I had went through and really set up my website to be like a news source, and that may be a little different, but
dude, we can get you there, man.
So
we can get you there.
It's just crazy that you.
Where are you sitting at right now on the numbers?
Oh, I'm real low. I don't focus hardly at all on social media. I'll put out my content, but I want to enjoy life.
Yeah, true.
And it's bad from a business standpoint to really do that, And that's the thing, the getting it out there, getting the content out there. I can do that all day. It's the promoting that you have to really invest in. And even when I really do invest in a project and I promote it, it does get more views than anything else I've done. And because I know how to gear it, I've gotten views on my Instagram, just without trying, I've got, 4,000 views.
Do it for the gram.
Most of my,
do it for the gram, baby.
Yeah. Most of my like views between TikTok and Instagram, I'm a couple hundred, every now and then I go a few thousand. And then, years and years ago, I did a tutorial on YouTube, and it's got 80K views, which is not phenomenal, but it's still, to my opinion, that's pretty damn good.
No, dude, I've really enjoyed your content, especially those ladies that you had. It was a video one that you did, and they were talking, was it mental health?
Probably. I've done a couple of those.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. That was like the first thing I watched whenever I joined your channel or whatever. Actually, when I first started talking to you, and I was like, man, I really dig your content.
That's really awesome.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that. And there's more coming up because I am going to be focusing more on some of that stuff. Like this season that's coming up here too. I'm also focusing on relationships. So me and my wife are going to have bantering. Now, whether we'll stay married afterwards, it's dangerous territory, Hey, how do you feel about this?
We need to hear it.
Oh, absolutely, and it's a healthy conversation, and people don't realize you really need to get these conversations out
How
there.
long you been married?
Going on, let's see, this year it'll be 19 years.
Chee-wee.
Yeah.
Dang, man.
Got married in 2003. So,
You guys got kids?
yeah, I got one son. We only had
Nice.
one. Yeah. So,
Good deal. I thought about having my oldest take over my social media stuff.
Hey, kids a lot of times are geared towards it. They know exactly what's going on. They know the trends. It's like when I was in radio, I was always following the trends of what was happening in music and what was happening within the gossip world. Of course, when TMZ came out, it became an easier thing because everybody went to TMZ. ET was out there, but nobody really went to there for the gossip. When TMZ came out there, they did all the edgy stuff. So everybody wanted to go to TMZ because it got more listeners and
Dude,
things like that.
I spend every morning, at least... And, I'm lucky to be able to do this. Not everybody can do this. But I spend at least 2 hours just jamming to music that I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I love doing that. And that's where I found...
like starts my day out fairly good.
That's where I found, Leon Bridges and Lake Street Dive and Nathaniel Ratliff. And it's so cool to hear some of those, these people who are independent that are going out and about. And then
I've been really into like Russ. He's a rapper, but man, like what he talks about is just so like legit, especially I guess it's like relating to it because he didn't sign with any record labels. He kind of did everything his own, kind of came up, promoted himself, did it all on his own.
Right.
So like I really relate to his music and it's so good.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
And then there's a guy I've been talking to recently. He's going through it. He works for the DOC, but me and him, like, we'll just exchange songs pretty much. It sounds kind of weird, but, like he's going through it and it's like, all right, well, I don't have money to, do this, do that. So we just send YouTube videos back and forth, like stuff that we're, we wouldn't necessarily share with other people, I guess.
Right. Things you go.
So just helping out in that way, like it doesn't take, sometimes when I'm talking about like helping somebody, it really, the weight behind it is very, very small. I'm talking like, hey, Jonathan, you having a good day?
Yeah, I'm having a great day.
All right, cool. All right, man. Well, I'm having a good day myself. You just be good at it. See ya.
Right.
Right.
And sometimes people don't realize you don't have to have these extremely long conversations. Just knowing the fact that somebody's asking you about your day kind of makes a world of difference to some people.
For sure.
Because
that's why I got this crazy idea, and I won't give you the boring details, but think about this. And anybody that's listening, I want you to think about this. What is the purpose of a gas station? Wherever Jonathan posts this, I want you to put your answer there. I guarantee you, I know a purpose that you do not.
And it's all perspective, correct?
Oh, it's absolutely perspective.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's how you kind of like see, that's how I kind of gauge where people are thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to have somebody say gas. Okay, that's right. That's true. But like dig.
Now, growing up in my hometown of Eminence, Kentucky, man, gas stations are a meeting ground for old people. And there's some gas stations that are geared for younger people that they meet up and hang out. And in Eminence, we used to have
Hortons jump off, or you got the, the Circle K that's, on its last leg and it's still holding strong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. But you know what, Jonathan? That's absolutely what I was getting to.
Yeah.
It's a meeting ground. And the coolest thing about a gas station doesn't care. Dude, it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, what your race is, what language you speak. Leaving a door open for somebody walking through can be one of the most pleasurable experiences you have all day.
Right.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Or just somebody saying, hey, thanks. Thanks for holding the door. Appreciate that. That one right there on your way home from work after you just had the worst day ever. right? Nothing's going right. You didn't get the promotion. You got stuck in this unit tonight. They want to write you up for this, or they want to do this. You know, that one interaction at that gas station can be huge, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And so there's more to it, but that's basically the gist of it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Well, Andrew,
dude, gas stations, bro.
man, I love this conversation, and we can keep going on. So much going on with this, but I've got to get down the road a little bit here and get some other things going tonight. But if anybody wanted to find out more about you and what you have to offer for your new podcast that's coming out, as well as all the stuff you put on social media, where do they need to go?
So mainly I kind of stick with Facebook because I'm not super social media savvy. But anybody can hit me up at Andrew Everything Art at gmail.com, and you know, whatever, let's make whatever happen. You know, I'm open to anything. Really would like to focus on mental health, but dude, the sky's the limit.
Dude, when you get this thing really rocking, just holler back at me.
Absolutely.
And I'll hop back on with you and just say, hey, you know.
I got to return the favor.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, I would really love to see how this stuff progresses. So I'm going to be trying to keep in touch. And as soon as you get that, say, hey, here's my first episode, I'm going to be listening.
Yeah, I'm pretty low key today.
Yeah, I'm going to do listen first day. I'm going to see what's going on.
Yeah, like I'm pretty low key right now. I don't expect my podcast to be anything too low key. Like it's probably going to be a little rowdy. But, you know, we're going to try to make it geared towards young adults, parents, 30s, 40s, you know, the older generations, newer generations, anybody, you know, so, and we want to have fun doing it.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. That's the biggest key.
Stand by.
All right. Well, Andrew, thank you again for coming on.
Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate it, buddy.
This episode of Itch Your Break was not a paid advertisement. Follow Jonathan Mertz on Twitter at Jonathan Mertz. That's JONATHANMERTZ. Follow Itch Your Break on Twitter at Itch Your Break. Subscribe to the Itch Your Break podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and the iHeartRadio app. This episode of Itch Your Break was hosted, announced, engineered, edited, and produced by Jonathan Mertz. And it was recorded and produced at the Spark of Vision Studios. All sound effects and music were purchased through Sound Ideas, Pro Sound Effects, iStock, and Spark of Vision. Itch Your Break is owned and distributed by Spark of Vision. Copyright Itch Your Break. All rights reserved.